The Green Thumb Conundrum.
Hi, welcome back to my life with plants. I'm Newman. Today's subject is the green thumb conundrum. The term green thumb has been around for centuries. While those of green thumbs are successful at their hobby, the people who are not are said to have black thumbs. It's just the fact that some people are naturally gifted at growing while some of us struggle all the time. Does that sound like you? Or does that sound like everybody? Is the term green thumb actually true or not? Are there actually people that are gifted at gardening and growing green plants? We're going to find out soon. The term green thumb, rumor has it, the term comes from the era of King Edward I of England, and he reigned in 1272 to 1307. According to sources, the king was fond of green peas and had created his own awarded prize for the best serf who could show the most green peas in the season, and he called it the greenest thumb. So that's kind of interesting, isn't it? I didn't know that about the history of the term green thumb. Let's move on here. Now, before we move on, we're going to think about green thumbs. And I know two people that have green thumbs. And every time I watch their YouTube channels, I wonder how they get their plants to look so magnificent green. And not only green, they are big, luscious, and thriving. I just think they have green thumbs. I just want to know what you think. So the first one is Jimmy Vesueti. So Jimmy, Jimmy, last name Vizeuete, at Planters Vida Yamas. He speaks only Spanish, so you got to watch it in subtitles. But Jimmy has a green thumb. Watch his programs. That guy, his orchids are not only flowering and, you know, completely covered in flowers, but they're thriving. They're big, they're healthy. His dendrobiums, the canes, you couldn't get them any bigger, any taller, any healthier. Also has cymbidiums that are absolutely, they're thriving, overflowing with these green leaves with no black tips, no brown spots. He has a balcony. It's quite large, and I think he goes out on his balcony and it goes around and it curves in another direction, or he could have two balconies, and he lives in Spain. And on his balcony he has a green pergola-like lean-to. So as he's talking about his orchids, he actually has a roof that is the corrugated plastic weather roofing that lets in 100% sunlight because it's clear, corrugated, blocks a little bit of UV, and his plants in there are just absolutely magnificent. Not only that, he grows other things like cacti. He likes Echinopsis and Trichoceros. And Jimmy has the green thumb. I want you to watch Jimmy. Tell me what you think. Next up, there's only two. There are other green thumbs out there, but these two just stand out. Next one is Kevin. Kevin is from Canada, and you'll find him at Hakuna La Planta. That probably rings a bell for a lot of you guys, because that guy grows anthuriums, alocasias, hoyas, monsteras, philodendrons, and a few phalaenopsis, so not many. But when he brings out his plants, they are absolutely enormous, luscious, green, flowering like crazy. Some of his plants are like they were dug straight out of the jungle, except they don't have the bug bites and pieces missing out of them, because that's what you naturally get. Kevin has the green thumb. He may not confess to it and say that he doesn't do very much, but he just has the magic green thumb. So I thought I would just talk about those two particular growers. And I want to move on to the next chapter in this discussion. This is the green thumb for those that are gifted, or can you get one? So before we move on, I'd like to say everybody kills plants. Green thumbs, beginners, experienced growers that have been doing it for 20, 25 years. That is the way that you learn to grow something. It's through killing plants accidentally. And sometimes they don't die, but they get really run down and sick, and then you work out from there. So before we move on any further, I'd like to say that these days we have endless resources from the internet of tips and growing advice all over the internet at the tip of your fingers. But when I was growing up, we didn't have the internet. So that was really hard to grow. You had to get your experience from word of mouth, or you had to rely on resources from books. And the problem is with, I'm not going to say problem, because that's just rude and disrespectful, but it is not easy to write books about care of plants, because there's always going to be the anomaly, and that would be the differences between growing conditions, whether you live in the US in the north, in the south of the US in the tropics, cold climates, wet winter climates, sunny, dry winter climates, hot, humid, tropical summer climates, dry, hot, tropical, dry, hot. And even within your area you have all these microclimates. So these books are written that I used to use as a resource for the grower in general of his or her growing space. And if the book was written in England, it would have warnings, well, things that you shouldn't do with a certain plant, and how to care for them in the winter. But all of that mainly depended on their climate, because, you know, as we know, England has wet winters. They don't get that cold. They get the occasional frost and maybe snow very rarely, but it is very wet and a lot of rainfall. But for an example, for me, I live in Japan here. It is very dry, 40% humidity, very low rainfall, if you ever get any in the winter, and very bright, sunny, intense sunshine. So that just gives you an idea of what I had to go through, and a lot of us had to go through, not just me, but a lot of you too, when we were growing up. And so if you got that exotic plant like a Phalaenopsis, you always looked at it as something that you couldn't buy. You would just go in there and look at it and leave it and exit the nursery, never touch the thing, because it was a mystery to know how to grow it. Unless you had close contact with the grower that could give you that information, you had to rely on books. And the books were not thorough enough, because it was just totally relying on that particular growing area in that country. But now we have endless resources, YouTube channels, all these people with all these tips. So the question is the green thumb for those that are gifted, or can you get one? You can definitely get one these days. And I'll give you an example of something that I do, a method. There's two methods I have, and you probably already know this, but I just wanted to share it. When I go shopping and I buy plants, I take cuttings or propagate them until I have about 3 of the same. I'll put one in one area of the home, I'll put one outside, and I'll put one in a much brighter, sunnier area. So all of these spaces are different climates, sticking to what I know about the plant, not pushing it out of its grow zone, but just putting it in favorable places. And then I take notes, usually not on paper, but I put everything into my mind. I keep it in my memory, in my head, of what's been going on. And a perfect example with that would be for me would be Hoya Bella, the belladonna of all Hoyas. So if that thing gets overheated, all the leaves fall off. If it gets too dry, all the leaves fall off. If it's underwatered, all the leaves fall off. So it's got all these finicky little things, and I spread those around the house. I also grew one outside in perfect shade. What I mean by perfect shade is that no amount of direct sun gets on it, because it wouldn't like that at all. That one outside thrived. It grew longer. I gave it to the neighbor. I had one in northern window, and in the northern window it is shaded. It didn't get any direct sunlight, but it's inside, it's warm, and it's just bright light. That one's thriving, but it has smaller leaves, so it didn't flower, but doing well. The other one is in my bedroom. It has big, thick, juicy leaves. It has a lot of direct sun through the window with the UV cut. The air conditioner is turned on at night to cool the room. During the day it gets very hot. That one's thriving, flowers a lot. The other one is in the living room. They can have the air conditioning on during the day or night. Generally quite cool. Can get hot. Got a bright window where the sun comes up, it gets it, and that one is thriving, doing well, and flowering. So that's the green thumb technique, number 1. Number 2 is to have a beautiful plant that you like. Could be a philodendron or monstera, could be a Hoya. And then you discover that there's another one that looks almost exactly the same. And it might be a different species. So you might have a Hoya cutisii, and then you could have another plant that looks just like it. There could be a peperomia. And then you buy that, because maybe you're having trouble with your peperomia. It's not doing too well, and you think, well, Hoya cutisii looks just like it, but it's not in the same species. So then you end up buying both of them, and you could end up with even 3 plants that look similar. Then you grow the 3 of them, and then you discover which one grows best for you and your conditions, and throw the other ones away. Don't even bother with them. It's another way to get that green thumb. Alright. How can I finish this off? Yeah, I think I've covered everything. So the term green thumb is a real thing. A lot of people have it. Some people have to earn their green thumb. Some people boast that they have the green thumb, but maybe they're just trying to get attention. Some people just have it naturally, and they don't know why. So I was glad that you stuck around to watch this with me, and I hope you found it interesting. Before you go, I just want to show you what developing a green thumb means. So in here we have squeaky fan going. So that we have the Hoya bella, see? It's in flower, it has green leaves, it has thick, juicy leaves. It is thriving. That's the bedroom one. We have the other one that I grew that is in the shade. Doesn't get any sunlight. It is not flowering, but it is thriving and green. It has nice green leaves, but it is not flowering. It could, maybe not. That's experiment number 2. Number 3. Get this stuff out of the way. Number 3 is this one that is flowering, and its leaves are, its internodes are pretty close together because it's getting that morning sun. No sun throughout the rest of the day. Growing green. This is one of the best growing ones because it doesn't drop so many leaves. It's green, it drinks a lot. So this is the perfect conditions for it, and I found it, and then I can just throw off and go on and on. I got a green thumb. Woohoo! Yeah, look at me. But I had to work for it. And then they got one up here that's further up, and it's in bright light. And this one is nice and dark green. Doesn't drop any leaves at all. It's in the basic growing medium. It has a constant supply of water in its reservoir. Hasn't flowered yet, although this one was taken from cuttings and it's been growing for the last 6 months. Should flower. It has the best, greenest leaves. Internodes are perfect. Leaf side's perfect. Okay. Alright. This is my nice twisty phone stand, so I can film. It's got a bendy wire in there. You can bend it any way you want. It was cheap. Okay, so there we are. That that comes to the end of this. I hope you enjoyed watching and you found this interesting. And don't forget to subscribe for the sole reason that if anything else pops up and you find it interesting, you'll get a notification so that you don't miss it, because that's what I do. I subscribe to everything I like so I don't miss anything. Otherwise I'll just forget, because there's so many YouTubers out there these days to watch. And a thumbs up and a comment just lets me know that it was useful for you. And yeah, if you do give me a comment, I'll get back to you pretty soon. And before we go, I'd just like to say that I hope I have a green thumb too. Don't you? Don't you? Don't you want a green thumb, or do you think you have it? I'd like to think I do. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time. Bye bye.